classes. And let's see, Fernando and Riley, who's going to talk first?
I think we can introduce ourselves when we start with the slides.
Oh yeah, can you put yourself on? I can spotlight you.
Yes.
Too. I can go like that. Hey.
Hi everyone. Good morning.
So yeah, we can go ahead. Go for it.
Awesome. I'll start the presentation. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming today to class. My name is Riley. I'm the Volunteer Network Coordinator for La Mesa Verde, and I'll let Fernando introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fernando. I am the new program manager of La Mesa Verde. Just a little about me. I come from Chile, South America. I just have 2 years living here in America. So all this program and language and it's something new for me. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to talk with you about this program. Just a little about my background. I have my political science degree. In my country, I work at least, I will say, 6 years in government, always developing leadership in the community. I spent 2 years living in Bolivia, learning how grow food with indigenous community as a volunteer. From there, I get this inspiration about working food justice movement from the organic perspective and always developing leadership in the community. So that is my background here. And Riley, do you want to share something about you?
Sure. Like I said, my name is Riley. I am also new to this work and to San Jose. I grew up in Kansas City and went to school in St. Louis. I just moved here from there about 3.5 months ago. And that's where I went to college. I got my degree in sociology. I did a lot of work surrounding unhoused populations back in St. Louis. So that and food justice are both my sort of areas of interest when it comes to service learning and social justice. So I'm excited to be here with y'all today.
Okay, we can start with the presentation.
Awesome. All right, so this is just a brief overview of what we're going over today.
And this is a brief story of Sacred Heart Community Service. We start, I will say, 55 years ago, has a small effort from one elderly woman who believed that a lot of communities here in San Jose need some support that government don't provide. And she started to provide food, that means sandwiches, in their home. And they collect clothes from their neighbors to provide for people who need it. And that is the beginning of our agency. Right now, we have a huge agency. We have programs in education, energy, economic empowerment, housing, food, policy and advocacy, and organizing. And we are a well-known organization and also a huge space to be volunteers, to be involved, to provide services and to know more the needs of our communities.
So this is a little bit about how La Mesa Verde was born. Our program was started by an employee of Sacred Heart back in 2008. There's a lot of comparisons between like the 2008 financial crisis and what's going on now in 2020. Obviously a lot of differences, but we're still seeing that same struggle and that same level of like uncertainty and unemployment levels at really high rates like we saw in 2008. So yeah, Raul Elizondo founded La Mesa Verde because he noticed just the inequality of food access to healthy food, organic food in poor neighborhoods. And so he decided, or I guess observed, that nothing's more accessible than your own backyard. So that's how La Mesa Verde began. And this is a quote by our former organizing manager. Sorry, Fernando, you can go.
Yeah, and this is what we try to to do. No, it's understand that our program organically growth and was born from the needs of our community, but just not to provide food, but also to provide hope and tools and knowledge to empower our communities, because that is the most part what we need. We need to feed our stomach, of course, but also we need to feed our heart and our minds to resolve the problems, the root problems what we are facing. We describe these slides like the pathway of the evolution, because when we start as a program, we start with the charity approach. That means we as an agency, we have the materials and we have the knowledge, and we need to help others to face their problems or to provide support from them. And that charity approach was changing because our members start to saying, you know what, you give us 1 year of program, that means materials and classes, but I want to continue coming here. I want to have a different role in the program. Can I help to organize the program or provide maybe leading workshops or organizing events? And our program start to think, and the staff in that time say, well, that is something different that we do, but if the community is saying this, maybe it's a good sign. And we try. So that is how we as a program develop these uh, committees. So the committees is the space where our members develop leadership. So committees, it's different space in our program where our members can organize events, prepare workshop, the materials, and facilitate the workshop. The recruitment process for every year, and also it's the committee who work in the building season, installing and planning all the building, the garden beds for the each year. And the last part in our pathway of the evolution is the agroecology approach. Agroecology is the combination of agriculture and ecology. But they have one more part. In Latin America, it's really well known, this concept, because for us in our program was really important that people have access for food. That means have garden in the backyard, but also what we can do as a community to organize ourselves and develop leadership in our members so they can advocate for themselves. But you think, okay, they want to advocate for themselves, or where? Well, we need to develop leadership skill and power in our community, because the food system, it's created and maintained for laws and policies. So what influence we can have as a members of the community to in those who take decision, in the decision makers or policy makers or lawmakers. So the agroecology approach is our last um, stage we are facing right now as a program, and include all the organic gardening technique, developing leadership in our community, but also organize ourselves to influence and those who are taking decisions. And right now, what we're gonna see is not a video, it's just a, um, a diagram who explain the structure of La Mesa Verde. So we use this indigenous technique called milpa, or in United States, it's known as the three sister. It's an ancestral technique to grow food. And we're gonna explain how that fit with La Mesa Verde work. So the milpa, or the three sisters, is an agriculture technique used by indigenous community in Central America and also in South America. So this milpa is an example of polyculture that involves three different crops, and they work together to improve the soil quality, to defend from pests, and also to protect the life in the soil. Everyone is working together to improve their life. We're going to explain how that works in our program. Next, please. Thank you. So our structure has a program and how we cooperate in our community reflect this agroecology system. So for example, in the milpa, the corn is the staple crop. Serve has a primary structure around which the other sisters grow. The LMB community, that means our people, our members, are the structure at the center of our operation. So our community is our corn. The beans, they climb up the corn stalk for support. And the good things about all the beans, it's they provide nutrients through their roots in the soil. They capture nitrogen in the air and put in the soil. So they are working to put fertility in the soil. So for us, the social activities, advisory, and garden access committee feed the life of our community, organizing events, guiding and evaluating our program, and also showing here in the parking lot of Sacred Heart how grow food. The squash occupies the ground level and protect the soil from extreme weather. So they give a lot of shade to the soil, and that keep the moisture and protect all the life in the soil, definitely. And for us, the mentorship, the building, and the demo garden also committee provide the condition for our community growth. So through working together, our organization promote diversity of crops and diversity, cultural diversity, which is proven to increase resilience and overall improve our sustainability, I'm sorry, as an organization, be sustainable in the time. And that is how the MILPA idea or the Three Sister idea, we use that for explain how La Mesa Verde works.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so these are our core values. A lot of these you just heard about with the MIPA, but these are just some words that stood out. Empowerment, solidarity, justice, love, sustainability, and cooperation. All of these are drawn from nature and from the life cycle of food. As you can see, we like draw inspiration from the Three Sisters. And a successful garden is grown through like care, attentiveness, adaptability, all this stuff that we really try to mirror in our actions and our program. That is all reflected from the garden.
So how we share with you the last part of our evolution is the agroecology approach. That means we want to change. We want to create change in our systems. So for us, implementing agroecology approach, that means organic gardening techniques, community united and active, and highlight the traditional practice and knowledge, and to organize ourselves and have influence in those who take decision, we want to go through this kind of pathway in our theory of change to transform the food system. And when we say food system, we have our definition, and also we have what is the consequence of the food system right now. Well, we can say the food system have expensive, healthy food, and they have low price for junk food. 45 of the veggies produced are wasted. 800 million people without access of food. In just this weekend in America, they share a few data about food access, and 50.4 million of people, or American people, have food access issues right now. So that is the food system what we want to change. And we want to change this food system because we believe in food justice. And what is food justice for us? Well, that every community have access to healthy, nutritious, culturally appropriate food in balance with nature. For what? Well, to enjoy the social well-being. And that means save the life of the planet improve the health of our families, and have higher quality of life. And of course, solidarity and cooperation has a community values in our community.
Awesome. So that is our guiding principles, our core values, the systems we're working within. But here are some photos that Fernando and I are going to share what we do on a more tangible in a more tangible sense with La Mesa Verde. So here are some of our members installing beds. These are the beds we install. They're 4 foot by 8 foot and they have drip irrigation. And then here's some photos of our really, really successful gardens. And what else do we have? Some more. This is the community garden at Franklin Elementary. They have, 10 beds over there for families at that school. This is our garden in the courtyard here at Sacred Heart. We have a couple of these vertical gardens, like you can see, just to show that you don't need a whole bunch of space to grow food. We have some succulents and some herbs in there. What else? Oh, these are some of our organic gardening practices. You can see we're using eggshells to enrich the soil here. What are these? Using leaves as mulch, so you're not buying anything. And then the worms are really good for enriching the soil and compost. What else? Oh, classic pictures. More photos of our gardeners working hard. And the reward at the end of the day is the fresh organic produce that they get for free. And it's awesome. So again, this is some of our numbers, because we talked a lot about, our values and, what we're working towards ultimately, but these are some of our measurable accomplishments. So you can read them yourself. I think, I don't know, they're all really interesting to me, actually. I think the grocery bill, has been really important now that I am an adult and buying groceries all the time. The money saved on organic produce is no joke. It's awesome. So that's my favorite statistic personally. Do you want to do this one, Fernando?
Yes, of course. In other fact, we distribute at least 24 veggies variety growth locally in San Jose, adding flowers and herbs. So how you can see in this picture, we are not just providing just one crop or two crops. We provide a lot of diversity of crops because that's part of the organic gardening techniques. And our members also can choose which one they want each year or each season. Well, our members say 80% of our members surveyed say they feel extremely very connected with others. They belonging to the community. This is something that make our community really strong. And also 100% of our members surveyed feel that the staff recognize their skills and potential of each member. So they feel like we respect them and we recognize how much they can support and grow in this program during the time they spend here.
The video. All right. So this is how anyone can get involved. They can become a volunteer, they can become a gardener, or they can become a mentor. I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about how you all can get involved as Valley Christian students. So number one, volunteer. I'm sure we can learn more about what actual build season looks like from our seasoned expert here. And so that, I think that type of volunteering is a very satisfying and tangible, project. It's like you can you can measure everything out. You can say at the beginning of the day, there were no garden beds, and now there's, I don't know, 100. I don't know how many we build in a day, but that's a really cool way to kind of really measure and really see the impact you're having on your community, which is super important. But it meets that physical need, or not immediately, you're putting in the work to build it. But I think while you're doing that work, it's also really important to, which I'm sure y'all talk a lot about in this class, it's really important to address these root issues and these root causes and why the food system is so, failing so many members that they are turning to programs like ours out of necessity, not out of, well, necessity and enjoyment. A lot of our members, I think, join from, but yeah, it's really important to address why the work needs to be done, why you're the one doing it, why you're volunteering for it, why you want to show up, all that type of stuff. And then another way you can get involved is just to educate yourself on food justice, on agroecology. If you go to our website, which is, I think the next slide, yes, our website is La Mesa Verde, shcs.org. We have a tab on there that says Biblio Roots, and that is a lot of resources, a lot of really awesome resources about food systems, food justice, activists in food justice, a lot of current articles that are really interesting and really help me understand kind of what the work is and why I want to do it. So I would really recommend, I know it's more homework classic, but yeah, I would really recommend going to our website and just kind of clicking around, reading some of those articles if you have time, or just looking at our Three Sisters Prezi again.
And you can also follow us in social medias, and you can see some videos, tutorial videos we have done with our members in YouTube. So you can follow us and always keep update about what are we doing and the impact of gardening in San Jose with our community. And I think this is our presentation, Professor.
Right. Well, we definitely, can you guys see the chat? Because, so we've got some questions there. If you guys can see it, or I can read them off to you, whichever, what works.
Is that okay?
You want me to read them to you? Oh, you can see them. So it starts, the first one was, how has this organization personally affected you and how you look at food being processed? So I'll kick you off with the first one, and then you can just read the other ones and answer them as we go.
Awesome, thank you. Do you want to answer that first, Fernando?
Yes, and well, for me, this working in this program has reinforced the idea of big commitment with your community, and understand that you are not teaching others how empower themselves. You are facilitating and support them to grow not just food, themselves as a leaders in La Mesa Verde, in their communities. We in this agroecology approach try to push this really hard, that we want to create a space where everyone can share their experience and knowledge, and we build a knowledge together. It's not like I am the teacher, I am a master garden, or I have a PhD about gardening and I'm gonna teach you. No, it's how your experience, your background, and what you have learned or hear about gardening can help us to resolve the problem you have in your garden, and how that experience as a leader maybe in your life can help us to face the challenge in our community. So it's a really different approach than other programs or agency in San Jose and United States and in the big part of the world.
For me, as I mentioned earlier, I worked a lot with unhoused populations, which is sort of my area of interest, like I said earlier. And so beginning to work here kind of just made me realize how connected everything is, how, food injustice is connected to the housing crisis, which is connected to the economic crisis, which is, you know, exacerbated by the pandemic. And it just kind of made me realize how connected all of these issues really are, and how instead of looking at that as something that's like really disheartening, I think it's really hopeful, because there are so many ways to intervene on these oppressive systems, whatever your area of interest is, whether it's, you know, food justice, farming, gardening, anything else. You know, there's a way that you can kind of educate yourself, step in, make a little bit of a difference. And how I look at food being processed, I think is, especially after like reading all those resources that I was mentioning earlier, I just really understand how much this food system, I think Fernando said yesterday to me that the food system is made for profit, not to feed everyone necessarily. So that's just really changed my perspective a lot.
And I would like to say that the food being processed, it's part of the industrialization of the food system. And we are not against that. It's part of the development, the technology development. But we need to be aware about what is the impact in the health of our communities of those food. Because sometimes that food is cheap and you can have access because you don't have enough resource. But then you figure out what is the impact in the health of our community to have the majority part of your diet having access for just that food and not healthy food, no? So yeah, we make a huge progress and have this processed food, so everyone can have a can of beans because it's cheap. But what is the problem with the health, and what is the consequence for our community? You can see obesity, diabetes, a lot of problems that it's related with the processed food. So we are not against that, but we need to be aware what are the consequences our communities is facing with that. The next question we have, it's what is the process you go through when deciding which food to grow and what's sustainable for the environment? Do you want to start, or you prefer I can? Then
You've got it.
So we have in our community, we have members that came from South America, from Central America. We have some African American communities too, a few Vietnamese. So we have, in 10 years of program, we have developed a variety of crops, and we try to expand every time more crops so everyone can choose what they want from their cultural background, no? And we respect that and we encourage that, because when our members, in specific, for example, some Mexican members, they start to growing chiles and corn or chayote, that's a kind of potato, or I will say that, they feel like, wow, I did this with my grandma. I did this with my parents when I live in my country, and they reconnect with their story, with their history, with their family history. So it's growing food, empowering, but also reconnect them with their roots. And in terms of sustainable for the environment, we use the organic gardening technique. That means we don't use any pesticide. We encourage our members to be aware about how much life is in the soil and how important it's feed that life in the soil. And that's the reason, because we use leaves. It has a mulch because that get decomposed, and that it's the energy for all the life in the soil. So we put a lot of effort and knowledge and time to encourage our members to use the organic technique gardening, but not just from what the UC extensions give us through Master Garden, but also what are the organic techniques came with our members. Because if you remember the indigenous community, they don't use the concept of organic, they don't use pesticide, and they grow food for 2000 years, and they grow food enough to feed their communities. So our ancestors, they have those knowledge, and we need to revalue that too. It's not just science knowledge put in here, it's also a conversation between science and the traditional knowledge from our community. What is the next? Can you read the next question, Riley, please?
Yes, that was a great question and a great answer. Okay, Joshua asked, as volunteers, what would volunteering or as high schoolers, what would volunteering entail?
Yes, we in the building season, that means through January to March, we install at least 100 garden beds. So yes or yes, the high school volunteers are they have a huge amount of energy to put that. But also I will encourage you, if you want to be volunteer with us and you are not a physical person that you like to care lumber and build things, maybe you want to help us in social media and fundraising. You can help us to organize events inside of La Mesa Verde. So it's not just put your hands in the ground and work with the soil. It also develop the program through social media. We are learning how to use those things, those tools, to have the opportunity to spread the word about the program, because I feel like Mesa Verde have 10 years in San Jose and a small group of people knowing this. And we are doing a really important job. So we need to spread the word and using all the technologies we have to connect more people and finally, it's not just to promote our work, it's also to talking about food access and to put this message and those who are taking decision in the city, in the county, and the state, and in the country.
Hey, before you ask that question, can you tell them how families sign up, and how do you connect the families, and kind of what their responsibility is with La Mesa Verde?
Go for it, Riley. That was part of your work.
Yes, thank you. So how families sign up, we do a lot of outreach. We tabled outside of Sacred Heart. Here there's a grocery line every day, people lining up to get produce boxes. So we did some outreach there. And then I don't know, just different community organizations. Like we said, it was a lot of work to get the word out about our program. But eventually 55 now families at least have found us for this year. So they sign up, they attend an information session, which are all on Zoom right now, to get the info of the program. They make a commitment to complete 15 volunteer hours and attend all of our monthly workshops. So I don't know if we really mentioned that earlier. So families from us, free of cost, receive garden boxes, soil, compost, seedlings, and then they also get monthly workshops that we put on. So those cover like different food justice topics and gardening techniques. So that's our commitment to the families, and the families commit to completing their volunteer hours and attending those workshops and just being an active member of the community in general. And it's their first year is like that, where they have that commitment. And then after that point, I mean, the garden box is theirs to do whatever they want with, to continue in the program or to just grow on their own. That, I mean, it's always their decision. But that's kind of, it's the program for first year members is that commitment.
Yes, and also we have a 55% of retention every year of members. So our community is growing. And also we need to be honest, and this like a lot of our members during this 10 years have to leave San Jose for the houses crisis, because it's so expensive to live here. A lot of our members have to move out of the city to find other places to live and to have the opportunity to pay for a home. Because if they want to keep here, they cannot live in a house or apartment or even rent a room in a home. So a lot of our members at some point have to choose between move out or be a homeless. And this is not because they don't have a job. They have job. They have 2 jobs or 3 jobs. But anyways, they cannot afford a room for their family, a whole family in one room, or one apartment or one home. So that's the other issue we have. We will retain more people in our program, but sometimes they have to leave the city for the cost of life. So we have one more question. I mean, two. One from Katarina. That is, what made you join this organization? And I will start with this, Riley. When I came to live to America, I came with a long resume, with a lot of experience, and with the language barrier was something really important for me. So I have to start taking classes to learn English and to practice more. Um, and when I see the post and Indeed about this position, no manager, I was coordinator in the past, and I fit perfectly with the job description. They want someone with experience developing leadership in the community, organic gardening, and also believe in our mission and vision in the agency. That means provide. That means we want to provide services, essential services for those who need, but also we want to organize our community to change the injustice, not just to provide services, but also we want to organize and empower our community. And when I see that, I feel like, oh my God, I found the job I always dreamed. So I apply, I prepare myself, and they say, okay, Fernando, you can start in this position. And for me, it was a blast being here because, how I say, I spent 6 years working in government in my country, in Chile, South America. And I never felt that my supervisor recognized my knowledge, my experience, and my ideas. And here, when I share my ideas, they say, nice, go for it. We want to see that. Try it. At least try it, and we will see what happens. And guys, when you're gonna start in the workplace, you're gonna feel that because you are young and you are new. And the supervisors sometimes they don't listen to you because you don't have experience. You're gonna get frustrated a lot of times. But at some point, you're gonna find a place where they're gonna value and recognize your passion for your work and your ideas. And when you find that, guys, you're gonna say, this is my place to be and to grow.
It was beautiful. Um, for me, yes, round of applause. I joined this organization through a program called the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. It's a year of service program for college graduates. You all should look into it in a couple of years if you decide to go to college. And yeah, I interviewed with La Mesa Verde, and similar to Fernando, I really recognized that this program is different because it has all these multi-level interventions to this issue of food injustice. So I was really struck by the structure of the program, and I applied and got the job, and I feel valued and seen by my supervisor, and it's awesome.
Yeah, we need you, Riley. So we're gonna do the best to provide it. And the last question is, there is there a specific age you have to be volunteer? I will say Sacred Heart have a policy about that. It's you to volunteer here, you have to at least have 13 years. If you have less than that, you have to came with a parent, no, with adults. So you can have 9 years and came to be volunteer, but you need to came with your parents or with a teacher or someone who is in charge of you. But if you have at least 13 years old, you can come here by yourself and be volunteer.
One of the things, just Fernando and Riley, we've been talking about is there's the passage in the Bible that talks about faith and works. Like you say you're going to do something and then you actually do it. So I think everybody, this is why I love what Sacred Heart does, is that they actually do things like help people grow vegetables, something as simple as that, and just putting that into action is a good thing. So Fernando, Riley, thank you so much. I want to ask you too, if you would be willing, if students, like we get to January and we can talk about, when the volunteer opportunities are going to be. So make sure I'm on the list for that. But can they potentially in January maybe email either two of you if they have some more questions about La Mesa Verde and how they could be involved? Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. So in the chat, we shared our email. Thank you, Riley. And you can send us an email anytime. You don't need to wait until January. If
Okay.
you want to learn more about us.
Great.
And have a one-on-one with us about, if you want to learning about gardening, that's okay. We can include you in our classes. And just, this is what you hear in this presentation, click in your mind, something like, wow, it's interesting, just send them an email and we will respond you. Maybe we're going to take a few days to respond because we are super busy, but we will respond you because we need more people get involved in the food justice movement.
Okay, well, thank you both so much. They got to go to their next class, but I'll be in touch. And everybody, round of applause, please. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
And you guys